In this video, I'm going to show you the 3 best builds for Daisy in my opinion. So Daisy is a character who only really excels at her technique, and everything else is pretty balanced without counting her speed. So that's why a lot of people, classify her as one of the worst characters in this game, because she has so many points on the technique, but not really any other stat that she really excels at. So every other character pretty much can do a similar or better job that she can do in any role. So yes, she's not the greatest. But with these 3 builds that I'm going to show you, you might want to give her a try. Before we start with the builds, I just wanted to say that I'm not going to be mentioning the full strength Daisy, because people used to count that as her best build, but I believe that since the introduction of Pauline, that is no longer a viable option. Plus, in my opinion, it is pretty boring to play, so yeah. The first build that I'm going to show you is a striker version of Daisy. In the game, we do have better strikers. Like, Beardo is the best of the strikers, Then there's Rosalina, Mario, and on 4th place there's Daisy. So I promise to you that this build will not disappoint you with the amount of goals that it can get into the net. For this build, we'll equip the trick helmet, the barrel gear on the hands, then the cannon plate and the cannon boots. So just as with every dedicated shooter builds that there are, your only job is really to shoot the ball from wherever you are on the field and have a high chance to make it there. And as you can see, she does a pretty good job at it. And when it comes to numbers of shooting and technique, it's very similar to, the most effective Rosalina and the most effective Mario build. Although I would suggest that you use her on your 3rd or 2nd spot, because she doesn't really have strength or speed to make a good captain. Something that I would say that Daisy is actually better than Mario and Rosalina is dodging, because her hitbox is way smaller, so I feel like I can dodge people that are trying to charge me while I'm trying to charge a goal way easier. So yeah, that's actually something better that she can do than Mario and Rosalina. And as you can see, I was running some tests of this build just to see how many shots could it get into the net, and it actually got quite a bit of shots. She made 24 out of 52 goals on the net, and that is pretty good. That's like 46% of the shots made onto the goal, which is kind of there with Mario and Rosalina. So yeah, I believe that she could replace Beardo, Mario, and Rosalina if you really like Daisy as a character. Now for the variations with this build, the first thing that you could do is change the barrel gear for the cannon gloves. This will basically just bring down your technique by 1 point, but bring up your strength by 2 points. And although the change on the technique isn't really a big change, the change on the strength actually makes her a little more suitable for being on the captain position. Now, this next build that I'm going to show you doesn't really concentrate at all on the shooting potential, but it actually concentrates a lot on the speed. For it, you will use the speed helmet, the shellfish gear on the hands, then the speed pad, and then the Bushido sandals. This build is actually what I believe could be the best build for Daisy when we're talking about competitive matches, because she's very fast. Well, she's not the fastest, but she is able to keep up with most fast characters. She has pretty okay strength, and while you are playing her, you actually feel pretty strong in that you can tackle most people. And since you have a little bit more technique, you actually feel very fast when you have the ball. And although you have strength, I don't think this build is amazing on defense. Don't get me wrong, you can still play defense with this one, but it mainly excels at offense. Because as I said with the previous build, Daisy has a very nice dodge. So as you can see, I got a lot of these plays where I just grab the ball with her, dodge my way through the front of the net, and scored a goal very easily with it. And although this build is better and more fun than the next one, I actually decided to show you this one before, because the next one, I don't know, it's like the first build that I was proud of, so it kind of has a special place in my heart. So yeah. But before I show you the next build, I wanted to show you the variations for this one. So with this one, the first variation is that you just change the shellfish gear with the knight gauntlets. And this is pretty similar. This is what I used to use for this build before the update, but I think the other gear, the shellfish gear, does a better job there. But you can also change the speed helmet with the barrel gear on the head, and also the knight gauntlets with the speed gloves, just so you are more of a support character. This last variation is very different from the other two, but I think it's worth mentioning because this is the closest that I could have got to a support character with Daisy. And this last build is very similar in the role that it plays to the power forward Beardo that I show you in my best Beardo builds. And it actually did a better job than what I expected. That's what I said, that this is my first build that I was actually proud of. This build uses the trick helmet, the knight gauntlets, the knight plate, and the cannon boots. So this build is actually a very good captain. Since you have 17 strength, you are able to win most of your face-offs. Not only that, but if you are in good position, you can also defend quite well. But the main thing that really surprised me about this build is that, as you could see in all these clips, it actually is able to score most of the goals that it shoots. Well, not really most of the goals, but a good portion of them. And that is what I really like about this build, because when I saw the stats, I was like a little, not sure about it, because 14 shooting is not really the best shooting there is, and 19 technique is neither the best, so I was surprised for the amount of goals that I can make with it. A good example of this is this game right here. My opponent was going for a lot of long shots with Mario, as you can see at the face-offs, but I really like that this build was able to keep up with the long shots that Mario was, ripping out from the midfield. And just as with the first build, I also did some testing for this one to have just like a general idea of how many shots does this build make into the net. And as I said before, is actually a pretty sizable amount. This build made 19 out of 49% of its shots, and is actually quite good. That is basically around 38% of your shots made into the net, which is, of course, less than the most effective build, but is not that far. Plus, this build has the benefit that it has 17 strength, so you're not worthless on defense and you're very good at the face-offs, so that's why I really like it. Now for this build I got quite a few variations. The first two make you a better striker overall, but take away a little bit of speed and a little bit of strength. So if you just care about the shooting potential, you can use this too. For the first variation, you can just change the knight gauntlets with the cannon gloves. And for another variation, you can keep the cannon gloves and change to the cannon visor instead of the trick helmet. And lastly, if you want like a more all-around power forward, you can change for the muscle gauntlets on the hands. And there you go. So before I go, I just wanted to make a disclaimer. I've seen some people online using this build, and although in theory this build is better, right, because you only lose 1 point into shooting and win 2 points into technique, I actually believe that the shooting stat might be capped because I was not getting any shot on the net with this one in comparison to my other build, you know, the 14 shooting one. So I will do some tests, and if my theory is right, I might get a video out talking about shooting being capped between 13 and 14 shooting. I hope you really enjoyed this video. Bye!